I had $7 left. This is what I did next. You. Listen to this until the end. I remember that evening as if it were carved into my bones. The sky above my city was the color of tarnished copper, heavy, muted, about to break into rain. I sat on a cracked wooden bench by the bus stop, watching windows blink out one by one as the city settled into its night. In my pocket, my fingers curled around the last of my money. $7, not 700, not 7,000, 7. Enough for either dinner or the bus ride to work. Not both. Somewhere nearby, 2 college kids laughed, bragging about their brand new phones. I had long stopped dreaming about phones. I dreamed of something far more modest. To wake up one day and not wonder if I could afford to make it to Friday. That night, I felt it for the first time. I wasn't living. I was quietly, slowly drowning. And then, something inside me shifted. A thought, sharp and unshakable. Either I change everything now, or I never will. My name is Daniel Reyes. 32 years old, though my face looked older then. The kind of older that comes from worry, not years. I grew up in a part of the city most people drove past with their doors locked. The air there always smelled faintly of dust and diesel. The streets hummed with the constant sound of motorcycles and shouting vendors, trying to sell oranges or used sneakers. My earliest memory of money wasn't earning it. It was watching my mother count coins at the kitchen table, her fingers trembling, her eyes darting toward the rent notice pinned above the stove. We didn't talk about success in my neighborhood. Success was paying the electricity before they cut it off. At 19, I had my first job, sweeping floors in a mechanic shop. The pay was low, the smell of oil clung to my clothes, and the owner never looked me in the eye. One afternoon, I overheard him laughing with a supplier. He said, "Reyes, oh, he'll never be more than a broom with legs." He didn't say it to my face. He didn't have to. I carried those words home with me, heavier than any sack of tools I'd ever lifted. That night, I stared at my shoes, soles worn thin, holes big enough for the rain to sneak in, and I swore I'd never die with those same shoes on my feet. The spark came on a Tuesday. It always surprises me how life can turn with something so small. I was delivering a part to a repair shop across town when I ran into Miguel, an old neighbor I hadn't seen in years. Back when we were kids, Miguel had been just like me, broke, scrappy, always scheming to earn a few coins. But that day, he stepped out of a gleaming SUV, wearing a suit so sharp it looked like it could cut air. We talked. At first, it was awkward, me in my oil-stained overalls, him in tailored confidence. But then he told me about his business, importing and reselling small electronics. He didn't talk about luck or being born into money. He talked about learning, trying, failing, trying again. Before he left, he said something that rattled in my head for days. "Daniel, the only difference between us is I decided I was worth more than my paycheck." I went home that night, sat at my kitchen table, the same table my mother once counted coins on, and for the first time, I opened my old laptop and typed into the search bar, "How to start a business with no money." The answers were messy, scattered, and overwhelming. But somewhere in that mess, I felt it. The first tug of a new current pulling me away from the shore I'd known all my life. It started with a single second-hand phone. I bought it from a street vendor for $25, money I didn't have but borrowed from my cousin with a promise I'd double it. I spent hours cleaning it, fixing tiny scratches, wiping every smudge from the screen like I was polishing a piece of gold. I listed it online for $35. It sold in 2 hours. $35, $10 profit. It wasn't much, but it was proof. Proof that I didn't have to wait for payday to breathe. I repeated the process over and over. A phone here, a tablet there. I studied prices the way gamblers study odds, obsessively, almost religiously. Soon, I wasn't just fixing and reselling. I was contacting suppliers in bulk, negotiating prices like my life depended on it, because it did. One morning, I stood on my balcony, a rusted railing above a cracked street, holding a mug of cheap instant coffee. The sun rose slowly, bathing the city in a warm gold, and for the first time, I didn't feel like the day was already against me. It felt like the beginning of something I couldn't yet name. Within 6 months, I had saved more money than I'd ever seen in my life. The first time I held a thick stack of bills, I didn't spend it. I just stared at it, turned it over in my hands. It wasn't just paper, it was possibility. Money changes your problems. It doesn't make them disappear. It just replaces them with new ones. As my business grew, so did the whispers. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly called me brother again. Friends who once mocked my side hustle now wanted to partner up. But it wasn't just people. It was me. I started buying things I didn't need. Expensive watches, designer shoes, a leather wallet that cost more than my rent used to be. Every purchase was like a quiet rebellion against the years I'd spent counting coins. I deserve this, I told myself. After everything I've been through, I deserve all of it. But deep down, I knew I was feeding something dangerous. A hunger that didn't care about limits. I worked 16-hour days, ignored calls from my family, and measured my worth by the numbers in my bank account. One night, as I sat in my new apartment, glass windows, polished floors, a fridge full of imported wine, I felt it. That same heaviness I'd known on the bus stop bench years ago. Except this time, I had money. It hit me hard. If I wasn't careful, the very thing I had chased all my life would consume me. It was subtle at first. Missed dinners, unread messages from my mother, friends' birthdays that came and went without a call from me. I told myself it was temporary, that once I reached my number, the magic figure in my head, I'd slow down. But the truth was, the number kept growing, and so did the silence in my life. One afternoon, I met Sophia, the woman I'd been dating for almost a year, at a small cafe. She arrived late, eyes tired, hands wrapped around a coffee she hadn't touched. "Daniel," she said, her voice careful, "I don't even know who you are anymore." I laughed it off at first, like she was being dramatic, but then she looked at me, really looked at me, and I realized it wasn't anger in her eyes. It was disappointment. "You're not building a life," she said softly. "You're building a prison, and you don't even see the bars." Her words stuck with me, but I buried them under invoices, supplier calls, and midnight business plans. I told myself she'd understand once I was truly successful, but a week later she left. No fight, no dramatic scene, just an empty space where her things used to be. The night everything cracked, the city was drowning in rain. I was in my office, a sleek corner room I'd rented to impress clients, when my phone buzzed with a message from my younger brother. "Mom's in the hospital. You should come." I stared at the screen. I was in the middle of a negotiation for the biggest contract of my career. If I walked away, I could lose everything. So I stayed. I told myself I'd visit her the next day. But that night, she passed away. I'd like to say I fell apart immediately, but the truth is, I went numb. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, staring at the floor, the sound of rain tapping against the window like a clock, counting down everything I'd missed. At the funeral, I noticed how everyone kept their distance. No one saw me as the son who'd lost his mother. They saw me as the man too busy to say goodbye. That was the moment it hit me with crushing clarity. I had chased money so hard, I'd traded pieces of myself I could never get back. After the funeral, my apartment felt colder than ever. The glass walls, the polished floors, the expensive furniture. All of it seemed to echo with a kind of emptiness I couldn't ignore anymore. For the first time in years, I took a day off. I sat on my balcony, watching the city breathe below me, and I asked myself the question I'd been running from. What was it all for? I thought of the younger me, the boy counting coins at the bus stop, dreaming of a day when he wouldn't have to choose between food and rent. That boy would have been proud of my bank account, but he would have been ashamed of my life. I had houses, cars, accounts overflowing with cash, and no one to share it with. Sophia was gone. My mother was gone. And I didn't even know when my brother's birthday was anymore. That day, I made a promise. Not the kind you whisper just to make yourself feel better, but the kind that digs into your bones and refuses to let go. I would stop building for the sake of more and start building for the sake of enough. It wasn't an overnight transformation. I still worked hard, but I worked differently. I set boundaries. I gave up contracts that would have kept me chained to my desk for months. I started visiting my brother every week. One evening, months later, I walked past a small market stall selling second-hand phones. The man behind the table looked tired, worried, the same way I had once looked. I stopped and bought 2 phones without bargaining, then slipped an extra $50 into his hand. His eyes widened. "Why?" he asked. I just smiled. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn." It's strange. The more I gave, the lighter I felt. And slowly, the money stopped being the center of my life. Today, I still live well. I still invest. But I also volunteer at a youth business program, telling kids the truth. I wish someone had told me. Money will buy you comfort, but it won't buy you peace. Don't forget to live while you're earning the right to live better. When I go to bed now, I sleep easily. Not because my bank account is full, but because my life is. Subscribe.